Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's nice to see you again. This week's episode, not unsurprisingly, is about sanding and fairing and fitting in and gluing with cap rails, and that's about it. So if you find this even mildly interesting, please stick with us, and we hope you enjoy the show. And if you liked it, give us a thumbs up, maybe even subscribe to our channel, and best of all, leave a comment and share us out to your friends. So let's get the show on the road.
Well, another week is come and gone, folks, and here I am, still on my knees, still on the foredeck, still toiling away. I start off this week, I had to add a batten to the upper edge of the hull, and this batten will support the cap rail that goes on top. It was important to get this in place before I finish fairing and preparing for paint. So I've sped this up quite a bit. So boy, I wish I could really work this fast, but would have been done years ago. But anyways, this is my regular epoxy wood flour Cabasil glue that I make, and it's pretty much bulletproof and very, very strong. So I'm gluing as I go, as far as I can. I probably should have used a piping bag this time, but stupid me decided to just leave it in the cup and spread it on. I made a bit of a mess, but in the end the result's okay. And I'm only going to show you doing one side. The other side was exactly the same thing, and the whole process took probably a half an hour to go down the hall and get it all lined up, glued up, clamped up, and leave it for a day, and then come back and clean up my mess. We've been blessed with some pretty good weather this past week, and this was the opportune time to get these jobs done, knocked out, so we can move on. And I'm hoping the fall weather is fair, and it will give us a chance to actually finish the fairing and put some primer on. And I don't know, maybe if we have enough time, we'll actually spray the top coat of paint over it. This is a classic example of you can never have enough clamps, and if you're going to use these plastic spring clamps, you got to realize that they're going to break, and they break quite often. God knows I can't remember how many I bought over the years, but it's been dozens, and I managed to get this cleat glued on, and I ran out of clamps. Imagine that. Once I got it clamped, I just went back underneath of it and cleaned out as much of the squeeze out as I could with my finger. It still required a little bit of sanding the next day to clean up squeeze out.
So I've got to try and dress up these corners a little bit and get them ready for final fairing, and they're kind of hard to get to, so I've made myself up some little sandpaper scrapers here. They're just the craft sticks, and I use some 3M Super 77 to hold them on. I've got two grits. I've got 60 and 120, so I'm going to try and work them into the corners like this and get rid of any bumps. And this is detail work, and it's kind of the final step to get us where we want to be and hopefully get a decent finish. And it's just the fact that the more and more you fare, the smaller defects. So you kind of need smaller tools to be able to get into these tight little spots.
I think I've said it before. I've never done this before. I've done a little bit of body work on cars, but nothing on this scale. So I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm making up as I go. And this was just one of those little things that happened to work really well. And I thought I'd share it with you. Maybe it'll be of use to you someday. Maybe not. But anyways, I did it and it worked.
I think that's about as good as I'm going to get it. So I've got a bunch more spots to go to, and that's really what I'm going to be doing all morning.
So I think I've fallen head over heels into a deep dark pit of fairing, and it's a bit of a nightmare. I don't know if I'm overdoing it. I don't know what the primer will cover, and so maybe it's OCD, I don't know, but I continue to fair this thing even up to the point where you're seeing this video.
I do have the drum style sanders, but you can't get in there with the drill straight up and down, so I don't use them very much.
I think one of the reasons I'm going to such lengthy efforts to get this as fair as I can is these areas of the boat are going to be fairly visible. I mean, if somebody's walking by on the dock, they're going to look into the cockpit, the forepeak, the cabin sides, etc. And you really want it to show your pride of ownership, and all the effort that I'm putting into this, I hope will pay off someday when somebody says, "Oh, who built this boat? Is it a production boat? Did it come out of a mold?" And I'm going to say, "No, I built it by hand, by myself." And I spent hours and hours and hours to get it to look this good.
Just marked a couple of little spots that are going to need a little bit more of the glazing putty to get them flattened out, because they'll definitely show up after paint. I made this one up too. It's a 1/2-inch dowel. It's got some 120 grit glued onto it.
There were almost identical problem areas on both sides where the side deck panel met the plywood panel that makes up the foredeck, and for some reason there was a bit of a dip, and it was quite substantial, so I had to spend a whole lot of time filling and fairing until I got it leveled off, because I didn't want water to collect in this area on the deck. Most of these areas that I'm fairing have fairly heavy overlapping layers of fiberglass, and if you don't fair them out, they're definitely going to show. So I'm hoping this effort will make them virtually invisible once the boat is painted. I think as you go down this fairing road, you find after a while that your eyes and your hands become more attuned to seeing and finding smaller and smaller defects. What you could not see 2 days ago now stands out like a sore thumb. Here's an instance where your hands become better sanding blocks than a sanding block or a foam block or anything like that. I think at this point I'm on round 4 or 5 of fairing and patching small holes and sanding, and hopefully I've only got one more round of fairing to do and the whole thing will be finished. Cross your fingers. I am. Actually, Lori came out the next day to cast her discerning eye over my handiwork, and she found a few areas that I missed, and we've addressed those, so hopefully it's done soon. The red material I'm sanding off here is an automotive glazing putty, and it's designed to fill the smallest of defects to give you the smoothest possible finish that you can get. And again, this is a fairly heavy fiberglass seam that I've feathered down and faired down, so will be hopefully invisible. So this last little section is what I was doing while I was waiting for my oak in the steamer, and this gray primer was put on the hull basically just to protect it while I was working on the boat. And I sprayed this on and it left a fair amount of orange peel, so I'm just removing that. It's one step closer to prepping the hull to get it ready for paint. I'm using my DeWalt random orbital air sander here. You can vary the speed by controlling the air with your thumb, and it's a bit more gentle because you really don't want to burn through the primer back down to the fiberglass. So with a gentle touch, it does a nice job. I finish off each section as I go with the FlexiCat sanders and 120 grit paper, and this really starts to smooth things out really nice. 120 grit is what's recommended by the paint manufacturer for the coarseness of the surface that you need to be painted on. So we're going to leave this off here. I'd like to thank everyone for looking in and sticking with us, and to all the new subscribers, thank you very much for joining up. We certainly do appreciate you coming to see our progress on our little boat building project. So until the next time, everyone, be happy. Cheers.